Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence to not only remember our troops serving our country overseas, but all those lost to COVID-19 and their families. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat.
Notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law have been satisfied concerning this meeting. The Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger published the original notice on December 20th, 2019, and the amended annual notice published in the Home News and Star Ledger on June 5th, 2020. A copy of the schedule was posted on the municipal bulletin board, and it should be so noted in the minutes of this meeting. Councilman Spiller. Here. Councilman Ficarra. Here. Councilwoman Meehan.
Here.
Councilwoman Drum.
Here.
Councilman Patel.
Here.
Councilman Anderson.
Here.
Councilman Bauer.
Here.
Vice President Small.
Here.
And President De Jesus.
Here.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the council meeting of June 23rd, 2020?
So motion.
Second. Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Beginning with second reading ordinances this evening, the first is listed as letter A, an ordinance authorizing the sale of certain property owned by the Township of Woodbridge to a contiguous property owner, and this is in the area of Florida Grove Road. Could I get a motion that this ordinance be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter A only. Hearing no comment from the public, can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Letter B is an ordinance of the Township of Woodbridge approving the application for a long-term tax exemption for Morris Avenel Associates Urban Renewal LLC. Can I get a motion that this ordinance be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be open?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mitch, Council President, I just want to remind the council, this was the old portion of the developmental center property, which is under state jurisdiction, so we got zero tax revenue on that. Under the projected terms of the financial agreement, it's estimated that will generate over $3 million per year over 30 years in taxes, with 1,200 temporary construction jobs as well as 1,000 permanent jobs, which is an absolute home run for Avenel. I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spiller. Any other comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter B only. Hearing no comment from the public, can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Letter C is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the Township of Woodbridge adopting the Downtown Woodbridge Area 4 redevelopment plan. Can I get a motion that this ordinance be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter C only. Hearing no comment from the public, can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Last item under second reading, letter D, an ordinance amending Chapter 3 Police Regulations regards with the modification of mufflers. Can I get a motion that this ordinance be taken up on second and third reading and the public hearing be opened?
Motion.
Second. Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public hearing is now open on letter D only. You can just,
Go to the mic.
thank you.
So on the modification of mufflers, does that mean you're going to be ticketing kids?
I'm sorry,
without
can you give us your name and your...
This is Anjali Holt from Woodbridge proper. So again, with the modification of mufflers, does that mean you guys are going to be ticketing kids or people with loud cars? Is that what that's for?
if you want.
So this is a modification. This is to make it illegal for a shop to modify a muffler to make it louder than it is from the manufacturer.
Okay, so it's specifically for shops. It doesn't involve residents
This ordinance is conformed to shops that modify mufflers.
within our township?
Within our township.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other comments on letter D? No other comments on letter D. Can I get a motion that the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted and submitted to the mayor for approval as required by law?
Motion?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Under first reading ordinances, we will take letters E through J. Can I get a motion that these ordinances be passed on first reading, published in the Home News Tribune on July 10th, 2020, with notice of public hearing to be held on July 21st, 2020 at 6 p.m.?
Motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Resolutions before you, Madam President, 1 through 23 inclusive. Could I get a motion to approve 1 through 23 by consent?
So motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments from council?
Councilman Vaccaro?
Madam President, Resolution 21, a shared service with the Housing Authority. I voted on the other side, so I need to abstain from that, please.
So noted.
Thank you.
Any other comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
We will now move to the public portion of the meeting. Please approach the microphone if you would like. State the area of the township you live in, and there is a one-time 5-minute time period. The microphone is in the back.
My name is Michelle, a resident of Avenel, graduated from Colonia in 2017 and a rising senior at Harvard.
Excuse me, Michelle, can I ask you to just speak a little louder?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Or is it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm here on behalf of Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity, and we'll be presenting all of our demands again. But first, I wanted to address the council. I came here about a month ago in hopes of building off a well-organized protest and proactively seek change. When I explained my experiences and fears, which are symbolic of many other black people in Woodbridge, I was ignored, gaslit, and dismissed. I was told by a white mayor, who's not even here today, that I should be comfortable even though he's never been in my shoes. I was told by predominantly white council that could use their PBA cards at any time if they got in trouble, that I have nothing to worry about. Instead of listening and acknowledging or blinding privilege, or continuing a conversation to further understand, nobody responded to me except Councilman Anderson, who heard me out. Despite me giving my number to all of you guys, it took tweets and emails for me to finally have a conversation with Councilman Spiller, which was a good first step, but nonetheless, we still have a lot to do. Our goal as a group is to make Woodbridge a better town to live in for all residents, in particular those who have suffered from various forms of repressions, either as students, residents, or both. I'd hope that's your goal too, especially as elected officials. And so I hope you all reflect on your recent shortcomings. Resorting to monitoring someone's Twitter feed or taking up space at a protest with informative speech and no plan thereafter, or sending a copy and pasted email from a council meeting that recently happened here is not leadership. We will not be silenced, bullied, and you guys will hear us, and you guys will represent us. And if the message we're delivering is not one that you can understand, then we'll deliver it in a way that jeopardizes your seats and brings both state and national attention to Woodbridge. And then mayor and council people, everyone can see the leadership of your self-proclaimed greatest town around. But nonetheless, I'm here to present our first demand. We demand that Woodbridge Township does not increase the number of police officers on duty for the fiscal year of 2021. More cops means a higher budget for the police department when it's already our highest signals budget expenditure. With COVID-19 downsizing our economy, lowering our budget in numerous ways, it's not reasonable to reduce spending in other areas and then thus increase police spending. We want to shift away from spending more money on policing when that money can be used to strengthen our community. In addition, violent crime in Woodbridge is already low. We only have 1 violent crime per 1,000 residents of crime reported, which means most of the crime in Woodbridge is non-violent, stemming from either a lack of economic or health stability. We should be funding that instead of funding our police department more and more. The mayor cites the increase in housing as a reason for increasing cops. But we all know that these apartments and these housings will consist of mostly minority communities. So he's thus admitting that, yes, we will be putting more police in areas that are predominantly non-white. the increased policing and criminalization of minorities is exactly what we don't want. So I'm asking you guys as council people, what are you going to do about it? Some of you were here just a month ago saying God bless the police and whatnot, but I'm asking you, in a town that's increasingly becoming diverse, increasingly being majority minority, what are you going to do for us too, right? You can't proclaim Woodbridge and boost the diversity in this town without actually representing us. That's not fair to me, it's not fair to the younger people in this town, and it's also not fair to the older generation who's been through a lot of racism and a lot of different experiences themselves. So I'm asking each and every one of you, right, to do something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, council. My name is Mia Banks. I'm a resident of Avenel. I've lived in Avenel my entire life. I went to Woodbine Avenue School 23 for elementary school, Avenel Middle School, and I graduated from Colonia High School in 2017. I'm now a rising senior at Boston University studying political science and statistics, and I'm here to present our second demand. We demand that the Woodbridge Township provides transparent information about the funding and appropriations of the Woodbridge Police Department to the public. In light of the recent investigation into the use of Federal CARES Act funding for police officers' haircuts, affiliates of the Woodbridge Township must be provided an easily accessible and transparent outline of exactly where the items listed under the term, quote-unquote, other expenses in the annual budget reports available on the township website, where those items are allocated. For the proposed budget for the 2020 fiscal year, the $2.7 million listed under quote-unquote other expenses was higher than the salaries and wages budget for our recreation services and programs, and it was higher than the salaries and wages budget for our park maintenance. If an investigative article from the state newspaper had to unpack potential shady use of money from the Woodbridge Police Department, then I am truly fearful of what may be happening behind the scenes. There was a 50% spike in spending on guns and military-style equipment 2 years ago in this township with a very low violent crime rate, like Michelle said. While during the same time frame, there was also a decrease in police education spending. The Woodbridge Police Department, Mayor McCormick, and the council need to be open and honest about where our taxpayer money is going. I believe that if many township affiliates were to critically analyze our budget, they'd conclude that the police have too much money, explaining why they can waste federal funding or taxpayer dollars on their own personal luxury during a global pandemic when many essential workers in this town weren't provided the same luxury. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Council President?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Banks, for coming to the meeting and speaking. Did you get my email last week?
No.
Okay, just double check your folder. If not, if you hang out, I'll touch base after. I send it on Thursday. Thank you, Council President. Thank you.
If I may, just before the gentleman speaks, there are people also waiting out in the hallway to speak because of social distancing guidelines. We're going to need, if people are done with their comments, if you don't mind giving up your chair then so the others can flow in and out of the room. Okay, I'm sorry, sir, go right ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Dabrowski, and I'm a lifelong resident of Woodbridge Township. I have 3 demands to present this evening, in addition to the other demands you've heard thus far and will continue to hear from other residents of conscience who are dedicated to helping Woodbridge finally begin to make concrete commitments to diversity, inclusion, equity, and anti-racism. So to continue where Mr. Michelle Bannerman and Ms. Mia Banks left off, third, we demand that Woodbridge Township police officers under investigation for using excessive force be denied pay and benefits while the investigation is ongoing. Fourth, we demand that Woodbridge Township officers themselves, and not the town taxpayers, pay for police misconduct lawsuits and use of force settlements. And fifth, we demand that Woodbridge Township does not rehire cops involved in excessive force incidents. In support of these simple demands, I'd like to present a few facts and statistics. 1, Woodbridge PD uses excessive force higher than the New Jersey state average and is in the top 40% in the entire state for excessive force usage according to NJ.com's Comprehensive Force Report database. 2, a black person in Woodbridge is 70% more likely to have excessive force used on them than a white person. Mayor John McCormick, our white mayor in a long line of exclusively white mayors, even just recently and inexcusably invalidated Mr. Michelle Bannerman's lived experience as a black resident, saying that Michelle should be pretty comfortable with the Woodbridge PD after he shared his concerns at our June 10th council meeting. This alarming 70% statistic only further validates Mr. Bannerman's lived experience and concerns, and you can watch the mayor's tone-deaf display of cultural incompetence on our Woodbridge TV YouTube channel. You can also watch Council Vice President Brian Small dismiss other black residents voicing these same concerns at our June 23rd council meeting, where he outrageously remarks to our overwhelmingly white police force, "Don't listen to the public." 3, just a few years ago, Woodbridge PD quietly paid a resident over $125,000 in taxpayer funds after officers displaced his front teeth with a flashlight while attempting to search him for a knife, which they didn't find. The township paid this amount with our tax dollars confidentially to avoid the incident going to trial. Of the 8 officers listed in the lawsuit, 6 remain on the force today, all making upwards of 6-figure salaries. 4, there are multiple Woodbridge police officers who have used excessive force repeatedly in a short 3-year time frame, but continually receive a bump in their salaries. Patrick Harris, Jose Maldonado, and Hector Rivera all used upwards of 15 different cases of excessive force, but still make over $120,000 a year on the Woodbridge taxpayers' dime. And 5, doesn't it seem backwards that in a township where teachers have to pay for their own supplies, police officers can enjoy high salaries on tax dollars to brutalize and beat black people at an alarming rate and not be liable for settlements, instead making taxpayers foot the bill? As an educator myself of 15 years, the absurdity is quite clear. In addition to these 3 simple demands and facts provided to support making them anti-racist policies, I'd also like to point out how Woodbridge was sadly on the wrong side of history just a few months ago, as fellow advocates and I literally begged our elected officials to pass a compassionate, bare minimum resolution condemning the horrific, racist separation and detention of migrant families, a crime against humanity committed in our name. While Mayor McCormick and the council never had the courage or respect to respond on the record at a council meeting, besides coldly dismissing us, saying that Woodbridge does not entertain such resolutions, the mayor did tell me on 2 separate occasions that he and the council indeed agreed with the resolution, but that Woodbridge would not be passing it because it's not a local issue. It most certainly is. That it might encourage other township residents to bring other uncomfortable human rights issues to the attention of our elected officials and demand they actually do their jobs and take a stand and dare to lead for a change. And lastly, that it might piss off half the town, that's a direct quote from our mayor, who support ripping desperate black and brown families apart and locking them up. "I gotta get reelected," was the mayor's shameful justification for the unconscionable. Will that be the mayor and council's same terrible excuse again? Or will you this time actually have the conscience and courage to get on the right side of history and stand with black lives instead of against them? When history looks back on not only this moment, but this movement, which side will you be on? The racist anti-Black Lives Matter side or the anti-racist pro-Black Lives Matter side? There is no in-between. As anti-racism scholar Dr. Ibram X. Kendi explains, policies can either be racist or anti-racist. It's long overdue that Woodbridge begin passing anti-racist policies. Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Hi, my name is Charity Daramola, resident of Seawarren, New Jersey, graduate of Woodbridge High School 2018, current junior at Wellesley College. We demand that Woodbridge Township caps overtime accrual and overtime for military exercises. Officers are allowed to work extra hours in excessively policing and patrolling communities which disproportionately affect black and brown people. The overtime budget for WPD is at $800,000 per year, which is honestly unacceptable. This allows officers to make more money at the expense of the livelihood of people in this community, which are mostly black and brown people who are being affected by this. Policing needs to stop. Our next demand is, we demand that Woodbridge Township defunds 15% of the police department and reallocates the funds to other underfunded departments, such as public health, with an emphasis on instituting mental health resources, parks and recreation services, and community resources that fosters a township that focuses less on policing and police officers. By defunding by 15% and reallocating that money, we can invest in our community and underfunded departments, which plague the town most, such as aforementioned mental health crises, sexual assault, domestic violence, which we all know is a big issue in this township, as I talked about at the last meeting, and addiction, recovery for nonviolent crime stemming from economic hardship and instability. And we can live in a community that actually helps people instead of harms people and polices them. we need to be less reliant on the police to help people with crises. We also need to focus more on investing in community safe havens, such as housing and parks, and recreations or public libraries that give opportunities to multiple people in this community. This will lead to a proactive and reduction of all nonviolent crimes, as we know that crime is associated with what people don't have rather than what violence that they have. We need to rely less on the police because they are criminalizing Black and brown people in the long term. The budget report available shows us that public defenders receive $79,000 on this budget. The police get $35 million and public defense is only $79,000. This shows a lot of how much you care about people that are being incriminated. It shows how you're eager to criminalize people without providing them with the actual support that they need. It shows that you have no sense of encouraging people to defend them of their rights. Y'all stood for the statute, you stood there and said liberty and justice for all, but you're out here allocating $79,000 just for public defenders to help people. You are pushing people into plea deals that have been known to criminalize Black and brown people. And if you don't know, watch the documentary 13th. It's not my job to explain everything to you. If the township reallocates some of the public budget to public defenders, they'll be able to hire more of them and pay them more. And then they will actually give people of color, Black people and brown people in particular, a chance to actually understand what's going on in their lives and their communities. It is time to defund the police, and we are merely asking for 15%. And as I said at the last meeting, that is just a start, and that is simply easy to do. So thank you.
Amber Jarrett, I live in Woodbridge proper. Calls for police reform and the reallocation of funds here in Woodbridge are often met with the recognition that our police department is nationally accredited, as though that is somehow evidence that our police department is immune to the perpetuation of racial injustice. Before I give our next two demands, I'd like to speak briefly about that national accreditation. First and foremost, the national accreditation that the town so proudly boasts of is not issued by any government agency. It is a self-initiated process done through enrollment in the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, Incorporated, a for-profit business. With our police department employing more than 200 officers, the fee paid to enroll in that accreditation would have been approximately $16,000. The bulk of the assessment for accreditation is then based on a 2 to 3 year internal analysis, so a self-assessment conducted by our department. Essentially, any department willing and able to invest first the funds and then the time to check all the boxes and provide proof that their policies meet the Commission's criteria are awarded such accreditation. It wouldn't be very good business if they weren't. So congratulations, we have a $16,000 participation trophy. It wouldn't, According to the Commission, though, this accreditation is a means for developing or improving upon an agency's relationship with the community, not to provide a defense to ignore their concerns. On the corporation's website, it states, accreditation embodies the precepts of community-oriented policing. It creates a forum in which law enforcement agencies and citizens work together to prevent and control challenges confronting law enforcement. It is based on the ideas of integrity, transparency, and accountability. So in the spirit of your national accreditation, of which you are all so proud, we would like to offer our next two demands. We demand that Woodbridge Township develops non-police alternatives to 911 calls involving people with mental health needs or other forms of health crises. We ask police officers to respond to too much in this town. Mental health is a medical issue, not a police matter. Officers are not properly educated or trained to deal with mental health issues. People with untreated mental illness and/or special needs are 16 times more likely to be killed during a police encounter than other civilians approached or stopped by law enforcement. They are involved in at least 1 in 4, as many as half of all fatal police shootings. Because of this prevalence, reducing the number of encounters between on-duty armed law enforcement officers and individuals with mental health issues and/or special needs may represent the single most immediate practical strategy for reducing the potential for fatal police shootings. Many departments across the country are or already have implemented policies that divert nonviolent, often mental health-related 911 calls to a medic and a mental health professional instead of law enforcement, or have implemented co-responder programs in which law enforcement officers are matched with a behavioral health specialist to intervene on mental health-related police calls. Those mental health professionals work to de-escalate the situations that have historically resulted in arrest and to assess whether the person should be referred for immediate behavioral health assessment. Additionally, in cases of domestic violence and abuse, mental illness may manifest as a result of ongoing targeted abuse by a partner. These victims may fear being viewed and treated themselves as a criminal threat by law enforcement if they call for help, which brings me to our next demand. We demand that Woodbridge Township make the Woodbridge Township Domestic Violence Response Team a separate entity from the police, reallocate the funds to pay the individuals on these teams, and require or provide legitimate training for those working in the department. As stated before, a police officer with a gun is not always the answer. Our town does not currently properly fund or invest in domestic violence response and instead relies on police to be responders. The response team is a volunteer organization that requires only 40 hours of classroom training. After police respond to instances, volunteers from that team often meet with victims inside police headquarters to explain their available options and resources. These victims are not criminals, and a police department is not the place to offer them support. The U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, and the Police Executive Research Forum studied the nature, function, and impact of police-community partnerships that address domestic violence. The biggest barriers to the success of these programs are lack of funding and lack of training. The fact that the Domestic Violence Response Team consists of minimally trained volunteers while the township purchases unnecessary military-grade vehicles to drive through in your parades is not acceptable. Arrest or prosecution programs alone also do not prevent recidivist violence. Our township should focus on strengthening non-police alternatives and investing in the community to provide long-term support to break these cycles of violence. This council and many community members are very proud to flaunt that national accreditation of our police department. But to believe that this accreditation means our department is above the need for reform is either arrogance or ignorance.
Just as a reminder, we still have, I believe, Officer Correct, more people in the hall. Okay, anybody is done, if you're willing to give up your seat. Thank you.
You mind giving me a second? Only because I got organization around the country watching. My name is Salam Ismail. I'm the National Director of United Youth Council Incorporated. We're based out of Elizabeth, but we have chapters in 13 cities around the state, and we also have affiliates and representatives and volunteers from this township. This is not the first time that I came to Woodbridge dealing with a police incident. In 2013, a young woman coming to pick her kids up from school was accosted by a police officer who came to her car and told her to back the car up, and move it and slide it over and move it to the sidewalk. So she did that. Then some altercation became abruptly with the police officer to the young woman on how fast she moved the car or whatever. This was a sergeant, by the way. What ended up happening is he snatched the young woman by her hair, threw her down, punched her about the face a number of times. She ended up going to the hospital and what have you. And charged with, of course, resisting arrest and the typical other charges that come with it. Just recently as May, another incident where a young man who alleged, by police accounts, that he was a part of a robbery. The officers approached this young man, said he fit the description. When those officers got out of their vehicle, now, this is where the story gets gray, it's been in a couple of your newspapers here, they said that the young man either tried to run or whatever. They said he slipped over some drainage, fell in some bushes, but yet they tackled him. You know, anybody play football, once you hit the ground, you're down, you're not tackled. So he ended up being beaten up again and receiving 5 staples in his head. So, here's what I'm saying. We support these youngster students and the group movement here in this town on their 10 objectives. That you guys are way behind the time. Even in 2020, cities across this nation is doing at least, even the Republican Party, this is a Democratic town, that's asking for body cams, and you refuses that. So what is wrong with you? You got a George Wallace, who was also a Democrat, kind of attitude on dealing with policing. You got a blue line, blue flag, and you saying hurrah police, but yet you have one of the highest police abuses in the state, and then you're denying that. You're denying your own facts. Here's what I had to say to this town. You got 10 days to respond to these young people and to the groups and these organizations. 10 days. If I don't see movement in 10 days, We're going to alert all our national organizations around the state and around this region to pay visits here to Woodbridge. And you're going to see, it won't be these kind of little, I like your marches, but the kind of marches and demonstration we plan to do this is shake it up a little bit. Tie this city up. And I'm not joking. This is for real. People are dying. Black men have been dying in this policing system for so long. And yet, white people continue to ignore those who are in the system, those who govern the land. And now there's some movement on it. In this city, in Woodbridge, you're not even gonna take a look at your own statistics and see what's continuing to happen? And you're gonna have these people gonna take out of their time and still have to reteach you all over again, and yet you're a represented body of this city? You should be ashamed of yourself. You got Abraham Lincoln, emancipation, slave owner, George Washington, slave owner. Read the whole story. Read the whole story of the impact of slavery and how what came out of slavery, the 13th Amendment, that sent now to this day many of people that look like me in the prison system. In this county, it's one of the highest rate of prison populated by your actions than anywhere. Because New Jersey is 61% of the prison population are black. In the nation, the highest in the nation. That's coming out of our counties in our state, which continue to draw the acts of these brutal police officers out of cities like Woodbridge and even my hometown, Elizabeth. We had to run a racist director out. Y'all seen that? We're gonna do a lot here in this town. You know what I'm saying? I brought my first suit from Woodbridge Mall. You know that? That was a long time ago. I never stopped shopping at Woodbridge Mall. Maybe Woodbridge Mall is gonna be one of the visits we're gonna make. Maybe the business community take a look at what's happening, how you're running your government, and how you continue to allow people of color to be the target of your police actions. You got 10 days from this day. Clock is ticking. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the public?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keisha Dabrowski, and I'm a homeowner of 8 years here in Woodbridge proper. I'm also an assistant vice chancellor for diversity, strategy, communication, and community engagement at the State University, Rutgers University. I'm here tonight to talk about the divide that has been happening in our town. You need only go to the Woodbridge social media page to see the divisiveness that has happened in our town because of that blue line outside. I can tell you that I'm a communicator. And as a communicator, and let me step back and say, I'm an expert communicator. I've been trained in communications. And I can tell you that symbols have meaning. If you want, I can send you all of the articles and all of the books that back up that literature, right? Again, I'm an educator. I remember noticing the blue line for the first time as I crossed Main Street with my husband back, October 29th. I'll never forget that awful evening when our one and only black council member was being attacked and lied on by the Woodbridge PDA president. While the overwhelming white police force intimidatingly crowded behind the room, I also got to say that as a witness, I saw his wife mistreated by one of those officers as she tried to enter the room. I was appalled and could not believe it. As I addressed the council about my concerns with the lack of diversity on the police department, and remember, I'm a taxpayer who pays their salary, calmly, I was very rudely interrupted and shouted down by a few of the officers, none of whom even bothered to apologize to me after. And I did try to have a conversation after. It was and still is very clear to me and many other residents that this blue line down Main Street is part of the racist Blue Lives Matter counter movement, which came in direct response and opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement, and only intensified after Colin Kaepernick began his peaceful protest against police brutality and racial injustice. Additionally, many of us also feel that the blue line symbolism represents an us versus them. Again, you can see it on the social media website. Mindset that heightens tension between officers and residents and negatively influences police-community relations by setting police apart from society at large. Now, I know being a cop is hard, and I know it's dangerous. That's why certain jobs are compensated the way that they are. But there are just some jobs that you cannot have bad apples. It's not okay and not enough for us to say that there are a few bad apples. If you're on a flight going somewhere, an American Airlines flight, and the pilot decides, this pilot, I'm going to crash. Every few pilots are going to crash. It's not okay for us to say that there are a few bad apple pilots that want to crash their car and kill people. That's not okay. That's essentially what you're saying when you say that there are some bad apples. No, when something happens, you look at the root of why it's happening. You look at the understanding. You interrogate the policies and the practices that allow that bad apple to happen. It's not just okay to say, it's just some bad apples. So I can send all of you all of the facts about the blue line. It actually goes all the way back to the 1920s and has a really, is rooted actually in PR, my area. It was a PR stunt in order to garner favoritism of the police during a time that it was in New York and then again in LA. I'll send it to the council so you can see it for yourself and the references, so I won't waste your time here. But what I do want to ask for today is, if policies are either racist or anti-racist, and if indeed the blue line down Main Street is to affirm our support for our police officers, as you say, then we're also saying that we use symbols on our streets to support and affirm some of our members of our community. We do it for St. Patrick's Day. Then I'm here today to ask you, do the same with Black Lives Matter. If it is merely to show and affirm your support for your 210 police officers, then paint Black Lives Matter perpendicular in an equally public place down Rawway Avenue. Other towns have done it. Why not us? And if there is some tension on, wait a minute, we can't do that.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Hi, my name's Anjali Holt. I'm a resident, 11 years now, homeowner over in Woodbridge proper. Got 3 children that I've put through Woodbridge High School. My oldest one graduated a couple of years ago. She had some incidents that we brought up at the Board of Education. So we've talked about that, but I'm here to speak on behalf of our students and our residents and our parents as well with demand number 9. But before I bring up that, I just want to say a couple of things. Don't wait until we're the worst town around to act. We might not be the worst, but we can't claim to be the best. We can't claim to be the best if we're not inclusive. We can't have pride in our diversity if we're not including people of color in our decision making and in our planning and acknowledging their pain when they stand before you. These are not fools. These are well-educated people in here. We are asking you to do the work, do the research, learn about what we're talking about. There's plenty of out there. This is not an overnight process. This is a step. Take a step. So do that. Another thing I wanted to say about that was we do have a lot of divisiveness around here. And if you do nothing, you're taking the side of the oppressor. So there's that. So with our demands. So we demand that you remove the police from Woodbridge High School. We brought this up at the Board of Education meeting, and we were told that this was done to protect students after Columbine. Couple facts about that. After Columbine, over 10,000 school police officers were hired just in case a police shooting happened. 2 decades later, they have yet to stop a single police shooting. Adding more police to our schools just increases the chances that kids will be victim of the school to prison pathway. And that's proof that they have already arrested over 1 million kids. Most of those are students of color for routine behavior violations in our schools. So money spent on keeping police in schools could easily be reallocated to spend on full-time counselors who are better equipped to deal with school conflicts, who understand the difference in culture and who are not inept. And it also reduces the trauma that these students are feeling. They see it all over the television. It's in our chat room. It's all over social media that police are valued over their lives. So when you have them bombarded with this constantly, it's traumatic. My children are one of them. So, and why should we have someone with a gun in our schools? You know, when there's fights and everything breaking out, that should not happen. You don't need anyone intervening with that with a gun. Black and brown students are overwhelmingly encountering police in schools. That builds the trauma. Choosing between having police officers in our schools and investing in textbooks, having teachers pay for their own supplies, but finding the funding for this, it just doesn't make sense, and it's not improving our safety. So help our children heal from this by actually doing something. It's not about being anti-police, it's being inclusive and supporting your community, your residents, your taxpayers. You shouldn't have to have black children to feel this way. You shouldn't have to have a black husband or a wife. You just have to be human. We are all human. We live here together, and it should be about all of us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Nasser. I live in Port Reading. I graduated from Woodbridge High School in 2018. I'm a current junior at Rutgers University. I would like to address how these meetings are specifically set up to silence the public. They are never spoken about, they're not announced, no one ever knows when they're happening. For the people who are at high risk for COVID-19, there's no virtual option for them like they have for the Board of Ed meetings. The public is only allowed a one-time 5-minute speaking slot before the council, and finally the council fails to acknowledge anything we say. At the last meeting, a few of us voiced our concerns with the police department, and none of them were acknowledged. Instead, each member voiced how comfortable they are with the officers. With respect, the majority of you are white and politicians with this township. Of course you feel comfortable with the officers. At the last meeting, Council Vice President Brian Small voiced how the police officers shouldn't worry about what the public says about that. And that's kind of odd because they are public servants, and that should be their number one concern, what the public thinks about them. And it's amazing how this council valued what the police feels over the black and brown people's legitimate fear. And the last thing I want to say is I see a lot of you smirking and laughing, and nothing is funny about what we're saying. We should be taken seriously. I don't care how young we are. We will not be silenced, and we will not stay silent. We will continue to practice our First Amendment right to protest. We will continue to show up. We will continue to call you out, and if needed, we will vote you out. Thank you.
Are there any more questions or comments from the public?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lee Darden. I currently live in Avenel. I grew up in Port Reading. I'm part of the graduating class of Woodbridge High School 2001, and I currently have 2 children in the Woodbridge Township School District. I love Woodbridge Township. I am grateful for all the opportunities it affords its residents. I especially see efforts for the town's senior citizens, youth athletes, and the special needs communities. Each of these demographics holding a special place in my heart. With that being said, I have also noticed specifically over the course of the last several weeks and months that there is another community within Woodbridge Township that is crying out for help, and it appears that those cries have been met with resistance or indifference. It is hard for me to reconcile this response with what I know of the town, to be a loving, accommodating place, but at the same time frustratingly silent or indecisive with a serious problem within another community that I hold dear to my heart, Woodbridge's residents of color. Many residents, specifically our younger generation, have been speaking out about the profiling and other biased or discriminatory behavior they or their friends have experienced or witnessed at the hands of the Woodbridge Police Department. These responses to these calls have been firmly, "We stand with the police." I can only imagine that you would have that response because you either haven't experienced such behavior yourself or you haven't witnessed it. I can understand that you may not have seen that behavior on the street. However, I can point to one time where reckless behavior happened right here in this room. During a town council meeting in October 2019, the president of the Woodbridge Police Department Fraternal Organization spoke at the meeting. I'd like to point out that even though there were people in the room that did not agree with what he was saying, everyone gave that officer the respect he deserved as a speaker at the meeting. However, that respect was not returned by some, not all, of the members of the Woodbridge Police Department that were in attendance that night. When my fellow township resident came to the microphone, she was jeered, talked over, and argued with. It made it exceptionally insulting to a democratic process that some members, not all of them, of the town's police department were trying to intimidate a town resident from speaking her mind. What I saw before me as I watched the replay of the video at home was that some of the officers could not remain civil for the less than 5 minutes my fellow residents said what they disagreed with. How are we supposed to believe that those same individuals do not get a little overzealous in the field? I believe in the phrase, when you know better, you do better. Whether you are aware of this behavior prior to other residents bringing it up to you or not, you are now aware that there are some people employed by the township to uphold the law but are being reckless with that privilege and responsibility. I need to emphasize, this is not an attack on all Woodbridge Police Department or the institution of policing. I understand that there are good officers, but what I'm hoping to convey is that there are some who aren't and who are ruining the reputation of those who do the right thing. What I ask of this town is to be open to having an open forum with the people who are expressing their concern. My only hope is that you can learn to understand that while I respect you for standing with the good officers of the town, I hope you can learn how important it is to stand with all the demographics within the town. We have to be uncomfortable. We have to have uncomfortable conversations. Yes, racism makes us uncomfortable. The issue that we are dealing with has been brushed under the rug for so long that we are now tripping over the dust pile it has created. We have no choice but to be the people that focus on fixing this problem. We may not be able to erase all the hate that some people have in their heart, but we can work to make it known that Woodbridge does not tolerate that hate. I look forward to working towards and seeing the necessary changes in town so that we're not just a diversified town, but an inclusive one. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? Here are no other comment. Can I get a motion that the public portion of this meeting be closed?
Oh, there's one more person.
Sorry.
Yes.
My name is Victoria Birch. I'm a resident of Colonia. I am so sorry. I'm not professional, but I will be kind-ish. Okay, I didn't have anything prepared, so apologies again. I just want everyone to think about the decision to join such a council and what it means to hold these positions in your community. What did you do it for? What are you acting for? Who are you representing? God, my accent's awful. You ever listen to yourself? Anyway, in terms of the blue line in Main Street, these symbolic gestures obviously matter. If you want to do the opposite, unfortunately, it's seen as the opposite. Talking and supporting Black Lives Matter, you should be doing so. It should be in your everyday conversations. You should be having these conversations with your family, but you need to be doing so much more as it is your job than just symbolic gestures. Think about your jobs. I want to throw up. Is anyone else nervous up here? Oh my God. Your jobs are very important. The president sets the tone for the country, but you set the tone for our everyday lives. It isn't a joke. It isn't something to flippantly ignore. Your job is very important. Like, think about what you're doing every day. Yes, to appreciating the different parts of our community that we have supported, whether it be police officers or special needs people, our sister being one of them, or the elderly or anything within that. There's something that we should all recognize, which is intersectionality, right? There are cops, should be more, that are cops of color. There are disabled people that are people of color. There are elderly people that are people of color. When we care about these organizations, are we caring about every facet of what it means to be a human in our town? In school discrimination, just if any of y'all got kids, I'm sorry, I don't know you. If any of y'all have kids, talk to them about the things that they've seen. I saw some wild stuff when I went to Colonia High School. Especially Islamophobia and reading these people's like essays. Just the last person who spoke about police not being able to remain calm. Why are citizens expected to respond with yes sir, no sir, whatever? I'm saying sir because that's pretty much how that goes, right? Why are people and citizens expected to remain more calm than anyone else, especially the people that are supposed to be enforcing the laws? If we think that laws and structures and the culture that we have fostered here are unjust, why aren't we doing anything to rectify that? Oh, and I'm not specifically certain what the last person was speaking about, but a specific forum where we can actually talk about this instead of just within this meeting, right? Something specifically about police culture and what this town is doing to support Black Lives Matter. I would go to that. You, man, anyways? Yeah. I am shaking, so I'm going to sit down. Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening?
Hi, my name is Daniel Jimenez. I live in Woodbridge Township, specifically Avenel, and I moved here 2 years ago, and I just want to talk about my experiences. Before I moved to Woodbridge Township in 2018, I lived in Perth Amboy, and I've been a cross-country runner since the 6th grade. I've also done track and field, and one of my things is I love to go outside and run. I do it every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I'll get 50, 60, 70 miles in a week. And I've already had 3 instances in the 2 years that I lived in this township that I didn't really encounter in Perth Amboy. Now, I know this is a diverse town like in Perth Amboy, but there's a difference. The police force isn't really all that diverse here, like it is there. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experiences that I don't talk about a lot because, you know, I don't like, nobody likes boasting about microaggressions, if you can call them that. We don't take pleasure in this. It actually takes like some strength to try to get out. So the first time something happened to me, it was in the fall of 2018. I moved here a couple months prior. I was running down. It was close to the high school, kind of like by the Pizza Place before the high school, right? And I'm running down. I don't have music in me, and I'm kind of glad I didn't have music because then I wouldn't have like heard this. I didn't have music on me because I remember my earbuds had just broken, so I was just like running with my phone, and I was just kind of like blasting my music. Somebody could hear that I was playing Kendrick Lamar, and they were actually in their car. This was around 5, 6 in the morning. There weren't many people around. And I think that they took out what was a BB gun without the orange cap. So I was extremely terrified when they did. It was kind of like, they were like pulling up to my side. And I don't want to say what they said to me because I don't think I want to say that word here. But I remember being so scared that instantly I ran the other way. I didn't even try to get their license plate. My stepdad asked me, "Why didn't you get their license plate? Why didn't you do it?" I said, I was in the moment. I ran the other way at that point. And that wasn't with the law. But I just want to say that this was a white passing man. I can at least say he was white passing. The second instance was when I was running down near the shop, right? A police officer stopped me and he said, "Why are you running?" I mean, I had my little like arm strap on. I had the headphones on me. I had the Nike Just Do It shirt on me. There's a lot of joggers in this town. I see them all the time. Sometimes I see a jogger and I say, "Hey, you ever get stopped by the police for jogging?" And they tell me no. Of course, I ask this to 50-year-old white guys that go outside and jog, and I see them every morning.
But anyway, that was the second time. And the third time something similar happened, even though he didn't tell me why are you running, but he did kind of like do a little stop and frisk on me. He said, oh, where do you live? Oh, what's your name? You got an ID on you? No? Okay, run along. So that's 3 specific instances that I've encountered, all within a 2-year span since I moved here. And I just wanted to air that out, you know. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? Here are no other comments. Can I get a motion to close this portion of the meeting?
Motion. Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes here. Carried.
We will now move to the agenda portion of our meetings. My agenda is pretty much in order. I just have one announcement from the Barron Art Center. They are having virtual lectures, the Works Project Administration and its influence in shaping 20th century American art and photography, including the work of Dorothea Lange, presented by art historian Mary Ann Salota. So this already happened, and if you go on TV 35 video on demand, you should be able to see this lecture. They are also offering Saturday morning cartooning. Learn to draw your favorite cartoon characters from yesterday and today, as well as the story behind the artists who created them. New episodes every Saturday on the Barron Art Center Facebook page, and they're available again on the YouTube channel. Because of COVID-19, all of the programming from now until further notice will be online. That is all that I have. Moving down to Council Vice President Small.
Thank you, Madam President. Number 15 on my agenda, the Jazz Festival. The new date is September 12th, and it's held over at Parker Press, right across the street. Number 16 is our summer concerts, which started today, unfortunately got rained out, but begin again tomorrow. Check our website for our dates. Again, it runs Sunday through Thursday, and the concerts are all held at Woodbridge High School. That's all I have on my agenda. Just keep in mind all our essential workers, all our first responders, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Spiller.
Thank you, Council President De Jesus. Item number 2 on my agenda, just a reminder, excuse me, at the Avenel Arts Village, Curtin's announcing that in August they will have a week of learning for children ages 10 to 15. Each day of the week, students will learn how to prepare meals, breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and dessert. All materials are included in the price of the tuition, which is $50 daily or $200 for the week. Space is limited, and you can register at www.avenelarts.com. Also, for children ages 8 to 15, there'll be 4 weeks of Triple Threat Theater Camp at APAC. Come study with professional educators and Broadway instructors. Excuse me, there are Disney musicals, Harry Potter, Greek mythology, and pop rock musicals. End of the week showcase for your family and friends on the APAC stage. Space is limited, and you can register at, again, www.avenelarts.com or by calling 732-588-8033. Those are 2 really great programs for our children to do this summer. You don't have to zoom in, but they're on our township website as well as APAC. Also, check out Facebook Live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on APAC's Facebook for live performances and interviews with actors and musicians. Thank you, Council President. The rest of my agenda is order. As always, be safe, be smart. God bless all our essential employees, our Township Emergency Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Meehan.
Thank you. My agenda is in order. I would just like to congratulate all the graduating seniors from Colonia, JFK, and Woodbridge High School who will be attending their graduations this Wednesday. May each and every one of your futures be filled with happiness and great success. And just want to wish everybody a happy and healthy summer. Please continue to stay safe. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Drum.
Thank you, Council President. Number 2, Downtown Association. There will be another Zoom webinar interview for the downtown merchant business owners. We just completed one last Thursday with the owner of the National Bartender School, Jesse Finch. And our third interview coming up will be with Phil and Michaela Claremont, the owners of Long Smoothie, on Thursday, July 16th at 6 p.m. to To register for the live Facebook interview, just go to the Woodbridge Downtown Facebook page and join us to get to know our downtown business owners. Number 4, Chamber of Commerce is having an outdoor networking event on Wednesday, July 17th, from 4 to 6 in the public parking lot on New Street with new business owner Nicole Rogers Ice Cream Emergency Parlor Bus with a mayoral ribbon cutting at 5 p.m. You can check the Chamber website to register for the event. There'll be social distancing protocols followed and all are welcome. The Chamber continues to provide resources and webinars, so please follow us on our website and we're happy to have you all join in. Number 5, Buy Local. We have a Woodbridge Township Buy Local app called Woodbridge Now. The listing of all of our businesses are on there. If you are not on there or need any changes to your business address or name, please go ahead and email buylocalapp@twp.woodbridge.nj.us. And then number 13, Woodbridge Elk. Woodbridge Elk is having some outdoor events coming up. It's so nice to see some things are opening up again. There'll be a comedy show outdoors on July 18th. And the motorcycle committee will be having their bike race July 8th and July 29th. So you can visit their Elk Facebook page to get any additional information. And I do have an announcement. The Lake Chateau on Route 9 is having an outdoor after-work celebration from 5:30 to 9:30 on July 10th for small businesses, essential workers, and emergency responders with complimentary admission to RSVP. Call 732-634-2444. And I wanted to shout out to our DPW staff for their cleanup efforts along Cliff Road and C1, as well as the boat launch area. And Ferry Road, the new project there is looking great. They've worked hard creating a new additional parking lot. They're putting up a stage, and then in the process of acquiring new landscaping to beautify this area. And as well, I'd like to congratulate all of the graduating seniors this week coming up. And that's all I have, Council President.
Thank you, and I guess I should congratulate all the seniors, especially since my daughter's graduating high school. I don't want her to think that I forgot. So on my behalf, I'd like to congratulate all the seniors in Woodbridge Township, including the college seniors who didn't get to have their graduations, but they still graduated. We are, just want to wish you congratulations and good luck on your future endeavors. Councilman Anderson.
Council President, you're 2 years in a row of graduation. Last year we had the wind, and this year, we got cool.
A lot of tears this year.
But congratulations to Brianna. So I have a few areas that I wanted to talk about. One was the job bank, the Employment Opportunity Center on Woodbridge Township website. There are a lot of people right now that are probably looking for work. They were let go due to COVID. I want to let you know that there are sites that are out there for people that are looking for Woodbridge Township residents. And New Jersey, Governor Murphy has also initiated a website for jobs, and that is jobs.covid19.nj.gov. And I want to make a mention regarding the Minority Community Relations Panel. Some of you are on an email that I sent out. I'm planning on meeting this week with many of you. And I want to say, as always, I'm open to meeting with anyone. All right? I've met with people who oppose me. I've met with people who are in favor of me. And I've even gone out of my way to meet with the Woodbridge Police Department after, a very difficult situation for myself in October. And I can say that it's a little bit more on my end. I'm hoping that they're going to meet me more than halfway and continue those relationships that we can kind of improve on. And I'm hoping that that is an indication or symbolic of what they want to do in the community. I have reached out to them regarding the Minority Community Relations Panel, and I have received a commitment that they will come in and listen and hopefully listen to your concerns and make some changes. I meet with this young man right here, all right? I make that known that I meet with him because I was him 35 years ago when this town wasn't so diverse, okay? So I completely understand where he's coming from, but he's been very articulate in how he has handled his situation. He has made, I think, some valid points that need to be examined and need to be examined closer. So I encourage you all to continue the fight that you're fighting. I encourage you all to make your position, your case in Woodbridge Township. All right? Doesn't mean that I don't support the police. The one thing that I make it very clear, because I don't support police brutality doesn't mean I don't support the police. There's a difference. Okay? I don't support police brutality, but I do support our police. So there's a gentle way that you can shake up the world, and there are risks and costs to a program of action, but they are far less than the range of risk of comfortable inaction. So I appreciate that you've come in and you've talked to us. This is probably, in my 9 years as a councilman, the most I've ever seen in the community of any actionable events. From the very beginning of COVID until now, I haven't seen this kind of action in our community. So I do thank you for coming in and talking. That's all I have.
Councilman Ficarra.
Thank you, Council President. I too like to thank everyone for their heartfelt comments and expressing yourself in such great detail. My only concern is that I didn't bring enough freaking paper because I ran out of the notes and everything that I was taking, and I'm not good enough to type on my iPad. But I did take copious notes. I hear what you're saying, and I would like to join with Councilman Anderson. We've spoken about this before, but we do appreciate you coming out, and we are listening. In spite of being threatened with 10 days, we don't need that threat. We're listening to you, and we hear you loud and clear. I have some mundane things that are somewhat important in town as we creep back to regular activities, particularly in the world of recreation and sports that I'm involved in. Our Highland Grove Pool and Spray Park is now open for season membership. Summer camps in both the community center and the club at Woodbridge are open. I think the easiest way for you to take a look at that is the community center website is njwcc.com. That's New Jersey Woodbridge Community Center.com. And the club is simply theclub.org, and that will give you great detail. In the world of sports, and Daniel, you spoke as a runner, you're probably already aware of this. Annually, every year, we have a 4-mile run race down by the waterfront. It is called the Pizza Run, rather ironically, because it's a healthy adventure. But that run is going on. And you can go to CompuScore.com and register for that. We had limited for social distancing for the first 150 people, and then we shut it off. Unfortunately, we're at that 150. So we're working with the government, state government, to see if by next Wednesday that will open up. But again, that's next Wednesday, July 15th. It starts in Alvin P. Williams Park, and you can go to CompuScore.com to give you the most updated information on that. Thank you very much, Council President. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Patel.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. My agenda is in order, but I have few actually announcements. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to see everyone here, and especially in good health. I'm extremely thankful to be attending today's council meeting in person today after about 4.5 months. Although we have accomplished an incredible amount through social distancing, nothing beats gathering these chambers to get to work. I want to thank our mayor, the administration, our frontline workers, and the health, police, emergency departments for doing such extraordinary work during this pandemic. Our township wouldn't be in the condition it is in without your efforts. Special thanks to the sanitation departments for their work in addition to all of the successful street reconstruction projects they have executed within the past few months. Our roads are in great shape because of you. I would like to take an opportunity to send out prayers to those who have lost their lives during this pandemic, and I extend my condolences to their family members. These are difficult times, and although we have lost loved ones, we must remain vigilant and strong to better our community. Regarding our school, I would like to congratulate all of our elementary and middle school graduates. A special congratulations to our high school graduates who will actually be attending their outdoor commencement ceremonies this Wednesday. This pandemic may have taken your final school years from you all, but your great achievements still remain exceptional. Congratulations to all parents, family, and friends of our township graduates as well. Tomorrow, July 7th, is our primary election day. I request all eligible township members to get ready to vote. Fill out your mail-in ballots and mail them in by 8 p.m. tomorrow. In-person voting at local polling station will only be available to those that are visually impaired and or are provisionally voting. Lastly, I would like to wish everyone a belated happy Independence Day, as well as a happy and a healthy summer vacation. With our township on the road to recovery, please continue following COVID safety measures set by the administrations. Darker times are past us, and with everyone's combined effort, we can continue onward. Good night, everyone, and thank you all for your time. That's all for tonight. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilman Bauer?
Thank you, Council. Excuse me. Thank you, Council President. My agenda's in order. I just have one announcement tonight. The Greenway Family Success Center, located in Fords, July calendar is up and ready. Due to COVID-19, all activities are virtual and are free to you and your family. Follow them on Facebook, or if you have any questions, call 732-768-8049. Congratulations to all our graduating seniors. Remember your social distancing, stay safe, and God bless America. Thank you, Council President. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Mitch?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple items. New to your agenda is 1B, which is a transfer of a liquor license for Dimples Bombay Talk Resto Bar. That'll be under review and then before you within the next couple of weeks. Starting the next meeting, you'll start to see the liquor license renewals. The annual date, as you recall, was postponed due to COVID-19. They'll start hitting your packets then. And Councilman Patel already referenced tomorrow's election. That'll come off my agenda. I think I've talked exhaustively over that the last 2 months. So that's all I have.
And just a reminder, we all registered voters got a mail-in ballot at home. We have the Middlesex County Board of Elections put a mailbox right in front of Town Hall. So you just got to fill out your mail-in ballot and either take it to the post office
Post office or here.
Or here. So it's available right in front of Town Hall, and you'll see that it's very clearly labeled for the election only.
I'm sorry, Council President. I just want to thank Mr. Mitch and his office, the girls in his office. They don't get the praise that they deserve dealing with a primary in any election during this pandemic, and it seemed like the county threw them a curveball every single day. Everything is changing. We thought we'd have an understanding of what we were supposed to do, and then all of a sudden, 4 o'clock, Mr. Mitch would get another conference call, and everything would change. So it hasn't gone unrecognized. So, Mr. Mitch, please thank all the girls in your office as well as yourself. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Business Administrator Smiluka.
Thank you, Council President. I have a few items. I have a refund for overpayment of taxes. I have a refund for parking permits. I have a grant application for the NJDOT for Magnolia Road Design Project. Under police, I have a traffic ordinance amendment, and please remove from my agenda, or from the police agenda, the fire prevention ordinance amendment. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Legal?
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
So we're going to now go into the Board of Health meeting. Mr. Green, you're still available? If you would please present your agenda.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Most of my agenda is in order. However, I would like to provide a short update on our COVID-19 response. The Health Department has responded to over 2,274 reports of positive COVID-19 cases to date. Each response includes interviews, quarantine guidance, support, contact information, and follow-up by the Nursing Division, RNs, and Health Department staff who have been working hard and long hours to keep up with the high volume. In addition, we have also begun enhanced contact tracing on the new statewide ComCare system effective June 3rd. And we believe this will benefit the community and reduce the potential for new disease transmission. Additionally, I'm happy to report that the number of new cases have been declining recently, and I encourage everyone to remain cautious, practice social distancing, wear a face covering in public so we can keep those numbers low. I also want to report that the Environmental Division has been working long and hard on the response to COVID-19. The inspectors and staff have fielded countless calls regarding COVID-19 and responded to over 150 complaints concerning local business compliance with COVID-19 precautions. Additionally, we have either made contact with or personally visited numerous local restaurants, child care centers, personal care salons, summer camps, and public swimming pools to provide guidance and information on the many executive orders that the state has issued over the past several months. As more establishments reopen, we will continue to be there to provide guidance and assistance. I want to emphasize that both the nursing response and the environmental response will be an ongoing operation and require considerable manpower for the foreseeable future. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the council and the administration, as well as all the other township departments for all their support over the past several months. I want to especially thank all the terrific staff at the Health Department for all their tremendous effort and time they have dedicated to responding to this pandemic. Each and every one have put in extra effort and have really stepped up to respond and serve the community during this unusual time. They continue to make me proud to be part of this team and the community. Thank you. That is all I have.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Does any council members have any comments for Mr. Green?
No, I'd like to make a motion to close, adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.